Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're going deep into the world of UX research in financial services. We've got a stack of articles and research all about how companies are trying to make their apps and websites so good, you almost forget you're dealing with your finances.
That's a good way to put it. It's a really interesting space right now because you have this huge shift happening with people managing more and more of their money digitally. In fact, one of the articles we have here cites a statistic that 46% of people rely entirely on digital channels for their banking.
That's a pretty big chunk of users, and I can definitely see that trend myself. It feels like I haven't set foot in an actual bank in years. So what I'm curious about is, with so much competition in financial services, how do companies actually figure out what makes a good user experience?
Yeah.
It can't just be about slapping on a pretty design, right?
You're absolutely right. A visually appealing design is just one piece of the puzzle. What's really critical is understanding your users' needs, motivations, and even their pain points when it comes to managing their money. And that's where UX research comes in.
Okay, so it's about more than just making things look pretty. It's about understanding how people actually interact with these financial products. But how do companies go about doing that? It's not like they can just read minds.
Well, they can try. But thankfully, UX researchers have some powerful tools at their disposal to get inside the heads of users. And one of the most fascinating methods is ethnographic research.
Ethnographic research.
Oh.
Okay, that sounds a little academic. Break it down for me.
Think of it like digital anthropology. Researchers are observing users in their natural habitats, so to speak. They're looking at how people are using financial products in the real world, not just in a controlled lab setting. This could involve analyzing social media posts, online reviews, or even observing people interacting with banking apps in their own homes.
So it's about getting a more realistic picture of how people are actually behaving, not just what they say they're doing in a survey. That makes sense. But wouldn't people be kind of creeped out knowing someone is analyzing their tweets about their bank?
That's a valid concern, and ethical considerations are always a part of the research process. However, with proper consent and anonymization techniques, researchers can gain valuable insights into user behaviors and needs without compromising anyone's privacy. What's particularly interesting about this method is its ability to uncover unspoken needs and pain points that users might not even be consciously aware of.
Okay, I see how that could be valuable. So you're saying that by observing people's actual behavior, researchers can identify those frustrating moments that users might not even articulate in a traditional interview or survey. It's like they're piecing together a puzzle to understand the user's experience.
Yeah.
But ethnographic research isn't the only tool in the UX researcher's toolbox, right?
Right. User interviews are another crucial piece of the puzzle. It's where researchers sit down with real users and ask them specific questions about their experiences with financial products. This can be anything from asking about their overall impressions of a banking app to getting detailed feedback on specific features or functionalities.
So it's about getting those direct insights, straight from the horse's mouth, so to speak. But how do they make sure they're getting honest feedback? People don't always want to be critical, especially if they're talking to someone directly.
You've hit upon a key point, and this is where the researcher's skill comes into play. Asking the right questions and creating a comfortable, non-judgmental environment is crucial for getting honest feedback.
And I imagine those interviews can reveal some pretty interesting things. Are there any examples in the research that really stood out to you?
Absolutely. One article mentions a case study where a bank was struggling with low engagement on its mobile app. Through user interviews, they discovered that the app's payment form was so clunky and difficult to use that many customers were actually abandoning the app and using their computers instead.
Wow, so a seemingly small design flaw was actually driving people away from the app. It just goes to show how important it is to get that direct user feedback.
Exactly. Sometimes a solution is staring you right in the face. You just need to ask users the right questions.
Okay, so we've got ethnographic research for observing behavior and user interviews for gathering direct feedback. What other methods are researchers using to understand users in this space?
Another important technique is creating user personas.
Ah, yes, the famous typical user profiles. But how do they go beyond just basic demographics and really capture the nuances of different user groups?
That's where the insights from the research we've discussed really come into play. Personas aren't just about age or income. They paint a richer picture of the user's motivations, goals, and pain points. For example, a persona for a young professional might highlight their tech savviness, their desire for financial independence, and their busy lifestyle, all of which would inform the design of a financial product that resonates with them.
So it's about moving beyond designing for a generic everyone and starting to design for specific someones.
Exactly. By creating these detailed personas, designers can empathize with different user groups and tailor the experience accordingly. This is especially important in financial services, where products need to cater to a wide range of needs and levels of financial literacy.
That makes a lot of sense. But personas are just one way to use the insights gathered from research. What happens once you have all this information about your users? How do you actually apply it to the design of a financial product? That's what I'm really curious about.
That's a great question, and that's where the real magic of UX research comes in. But before we jump into that, let's take a look at a couple of other research methods that play a key role in shaping the user experience.
Okay, I'm all ears. Let's dive into those. So we've been talking about how companies use things like ethnographic research and user interviews to get a deeper understanding of their customers. But we left off right before diving into a couple more research methods. What else are we looking at here?
Well, two methods that might sound a little technical but are super important for designing intuitive digital experiences are card sorting and tree testing.
Okay, I have to admit, those names don't exactly scream excitement. What are we talking about here?
Essentially, they're all about making sure your app or website is organized in a way that makes sense to users. Think of it like this. Imagine you're designing a physical bank. You wouldn't just randomly throw the ATMs, teller windows, and loan offices wherever you felt like it right.
Of course not. You'd want to arrange things logically so customers could easily find what they need.
Exactly. And that's where card sorting comes in. It's a way to figure out how users naturally group and categorize information. Researchers give participants a set of cards, each representing a different piece of content or functionality, and ask them to sort those cards into categories that make sense to them.
So it's like a giant brainstorming session for organizing information.
Pretty much. And the insights from card sorting then feed into tree testing. Tree testing is like a virtual scavenger hunt. Researchers create a simplified version of the app or website's navigation structure, and then ask users to find specific pieces of information.
So they're essentially testing out the findability of different features. Like, can people actually figure out how to, say, transfer money between accounts without getting lost in a maze of menus?
Exactly. It's all about ensuring the navigation is intuitive and easy to use. You want to make sure users can complete their tasks efficiently and without frustration.
Okay, I'm starting to see how these methods, even though they sound a little dry, are actually super important for creating a user-friendly experience. But let's get to the heart of the matter. Once you've done all this research, the interviews, the observation, the card sorting, and tree testing, how do you actually apply those insights to the design process?
That's where it all comes together. And to answer your question, let's think about a specific example. Let's say you're designing a mobile banking app. What are some of the key things you'd consider based on the research we've discussed?
Well, based on what we've learned so far, I imagine ease of navigation would be a top priority. I mean, if the card sorting and tree testing revealed that people are struggling to find basic features, that's a clear sign that you need to rethink the information architecture, right?
Absolutely. You'd want to make sure those high-frequency tasks like checking your balance, transferring money, or paying bills are front and center and easy to access. You might also consider using clear labels and intuitive icons to make it even easier for users to find what they need.
And I imagine visual appeal plays a role as well. People are more likely to use an app that they actually enjoy looking at.
That's right. And research can provide valuable insights into what visual elements resonate with your target audience. Maybe they prefer a clean and minimalist design, or perhaps they're drawn to brighter colors and bolder graphics. The key is to design an interface that aligns with their aesthetic preferences while still maintaining clarity and usability.
And what about security? I mean, we're talking about people's finances here, so I imagine that's a huge concern.
You're absolutely right. Security is paramount in financial services, and user research can help inform the design of security features that are both effective and user-friendly. For example, you might discover through research that users find certain authentication methods, like two-factor authentication, to be cumbersome or confusing.
So you need to find a way to implement security measures that don't create unnecessary friction or frustration for the user. It's all about finding that balance, right?
Exactly. It's about designing security features that are robust but also intuitive and easy to use.
Okay, so we've talked about navigation, visual design, and security. Are there any other key considerations that come out of the research?
Well, one thing that comes up a lot in the research is the importance of personalization. Users want to feel like the experience is tailored to their individual needs and preferences.
So instead of a generic one-size-fits-all app, you'd want to create an experience that feels more custom-made. But how do you actually achieve that level of personalization?
There are a few ways to approach this. One is to allow users to customize certain aspects of the interface, such as the layout, the color scheme, or the types of notifications they receive. Another approach is to leverage data and AI to provide personalized recommendations or insights.
So, for example, if the app knows that I tend to overspend on dining out, it could nudge me with a helpful reminder or even suggest ways to save money on my next restaurant meal.
Exactly. That's the power of personalization. It's about using data to anticipate user needs and provide proactive support.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground here, from understanding users to applying those insights to the design of a financial product. But something I'm curious about is, are there any unique challenges or considerations when it comes to UX research in financial services specifically? I mean, we're dealing with people's money here that's got to add a layer of complexity.
You're absolutely right. Financial services come with their own set of unique challenges for UX researchers.
So what are we talking about here? What makes this space different from, say, designing a social media app?
Well, for one thing, financial decisions can be highly emotional. People often have a lot of anxiety and stress around managing their money, and that can influence how they interact with financial products.
So researchers need to be extra sensitive and empathetic when conducting interviews or usability tests. You don't want to make someone feel judged or ashamed about their financial situation.
Exactly. It's about creating a safe and comfortable environment where users feel comfortable sharing their experiences and feedback.
And I imagine the language used in financial products can be a barrier for some users. There's a lot of jargon and technical terms that can be confusing for people who aren't familiar with the financial world.
That's another key challenge. UX designers need to make sure they're using clear, concise language that everyone can understand. They also need to avoid overwhelming users with too much information at once.
So it's about breaking down complex concepts into bite-sized chunks and presenting information in a way that's easy to digest. It's almost like you need to be a translator, converting financial jargon into plain English.
That's a great way to put it. And then, of course, there's the whole issue of regulation.
Oh yeah, I bet the financial industry is heavily regulated. How does that impact UX research and design?
It definitely adds another layer of complexity. Designers need to be aware of the regulations surrounding financial data privacy and security, and they need to make sure their designs comply with those guidelines.
So it's a delicate balancing act. You're trying to create a seamless and enjoyable user experience while also adhering to all these rules and regulations.
It is, but that's part of what makes UX research in financial services so interesting and challenging. It's about finding creative solutions to complex problems and designing experiences that are both user-friendly and compliant.
Okay, so we've talked about the challenges, but what about the opportunities? What are some of the exciting things happening in UX research in this space?
One area that I think is really interesting is the use of AI and machine learning to personalize financial advice and recommendations.
So it's like having a virtual financial advisor in your pocket, helping you make smarter decisions about your money.
Exactly. AI can analyze your spending patterns, identify areas where you could be saving money, and even suggest investment opportunities based on your risk tolerance.
That's pretty cool. And what about the future of UX research in financial services? What trends are you seeing on the horizon?
Well, I think we'll see even more emphasis on creating inclusive and accessible experiences.
So designing financial products that are usable by people of all ages, abilities, and backgrounds.
Exactly. And we're also likely to see more focus on financial literacy and education, with UX designers playing a key role in making complex financial concepts easier to understand.
I think that's a really important point. It's not just about designing cool apps and websites. It's about empowering people to make informed decisions about their money.
Absolutely. And I think that's what makes UX research in financial services so rewarding. It's about improving people's lives by making their financial journeys easier, more transparent, and ultimately less stressful.
Well said. It sounds like there's a lot to look forward to in this space. But before we get too far ahead of ourselves, let's wrap up our deep dive with some final thoughts and takeaways. So we've really gone deep on UX research in financial services. We've talked about the methods, the challenges, and the opportunities. What are some key takeaways you hope our listeners are walking away with?
Well, I think the most important takeaway is that UX research is not just a nice to have, it's a must have for any company in the financial services space. It's no longer enough to just offer a functional product. You need to create an experience that is truly user-centered, one that understands and addresses users' needs, motivations, and pain points.
It sounds like it's really about building trust. When you take the time to understand your users and design an experience that feels tailored to them, you're sending a message that you value their time and respect their needs.
Exactly. And that trust is essential in financial services where people are entrusting you with their hard-earned money.
And we talked about how UX research can uncover those hidden pain points that users might not even be aware of. It's not just about asking people what they want. It's about observing their behavior and understanding the underlying motivations behind their actions.
Right. Sometimes the most valuable insights come from observing what people actually do, not just what they say they do. And that's where methods like ethnographic research and usability testing can be so powerful.
And once you have those insights, it's about applying them thoughtfully to the design process. We talked about the importance of intuitive navigation, clear and concise language, robust security, and personalized experiences. It's really about creating a holistic experience that feels seamless and effortless for the user.
And it's an ongoing process. The world of finance is constantly evolving, and so are user needs and expectations. Companies need to be constantly listening, learning, and iterating on their designs to stay ahead of the curve.
It sounds like a pretty exciting time to be in the UX field, especially in financial services. There's so much potential to make a real difference in people's lives.
It absolutely is. And as technology continues to advance, I think we'll see even more opportunities to use UX research to create innovative and impactful financial products and services.
So for our listener out there, what's one thing they can do today to start thinking more critically about UX, even if they're not a researcher or designer?
I'd say pay attention to the financial products you use on a daily basis. What do you love about them? What frustrates you? What could be done to improve the experience?
It's about becoming more aware of the design choices that are being made, even the ones we don't consciously notice.
Exactly. Once you start paying attention, you'll be amazed at how much thought and effort goes into creating a good user experience, even in something as seemingly mundane as a banking app.
And who knows, maybe you'll even be inspired to share your own feedback with the companies behind those products. Your insights could help shape the future of financial services.
That's a great point. User feedback is invaluable, and companies are always looking for ways to improve their products and services.
Well, I think that's a great note to end on. We've covered a lot of ground today, and I hope our listener has come away with a deeper understanding of the crucial role UX research plays in shaping the financial products and services we use every day. Thanks for joining us on The Deep Dive. Until next time.
It's been a pleasure diving into this topic with you.